There is a moment in every crisis when the old rules stop working, when the strategies that worked for your parents, that were taught in schools, that were printed in personal finance books, suddenly become useless, sometimes even dangerous. In the 1970s, that moment came when Americans realized a savings account wasn't a safe harbor, it was a leaky boat. The interest you earned was lower than the value you lost. Saving money actually made you poorer. Today, we are living through another such moment. The strategy of working harder, asking for a raise, climbing the corporate ladder, the most basic instinctive response to financial pressure, is no longer a reliable path to survival. Because inflation isn't just about prices going up, it's about the value of your labor being silently, systematically devalued by forces that have nothing to do with your performance. And waiting for your employer to fix it? That's like waiting for the landlord to lower your rent out of kindness. By the end of this, you will understand why the traditional playbook is failing, and more importantly, you will see the hidden architecture of survival. The strategies that don't depend on a higher paycheck, but on understanding how the system actually works. This isn't about budgeting tips or coupon clipping. This is about rethinking your relationship with money, with debt, with assets, and with the global currents that now determine your purchasing power. This matters right now because the next few years will separate those who understand the new rules from those who keep playing the old game. Let's start with a hard truth about the thing you're probably hoping for: a raise. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has been tracking wages and inflation for decades, and the pattern is brutally clear. Between 2020 and today, prices have risen roughly 20% across the board. Wages, on average, have risen about 17%. That 3-point gap is the silence between what you earn and what you need. But even that gap understates the problem, because wage increases don't hit everyone equally. They hit the top first, the middle later, and the bottom last. By the time your employer gets around to that 3% cost of living adjustment, the milk, the eggs, the rent, the car insurance have already gone up by twice that amount. You're not catching up. You're falling behind in slow motion. This is the arithmetic of frustration. A raise feels like progress, it feels like validation, but in an inflationary environment, a raise is often just a recognition that your previous salary was already obsolete. You're not getting ahead. You're getting recalibrated to a new, higher baseline of survival. And here's the uncomfortable irony. Employers know this. They know that a modest raise costs them less than replacing you. They also know that most people will stay because the job market is uncertain and the alternative is unknown. So they give you just enough to keep you in place, but not enough to change your trajectory. The raise becomes a tranquilizer, not a solution. So if the paycheck isn't growing fast enough, the answer can't come from the income side alone. It has to come from the other side of the equation, the outflow. And this is where conventional wisdom becomes dangerously outdated. For generations, Americans were taught that debt is bad. Pay off your credit cards, avoid loans, live within your means. That advice, in its pure form, was never completely accurate. But in an inflationary world, it becomes actively counterproductive. Because inflation has a secret ally, the borrower. Think about the math for a moment. If you owe a fixed amount of money, a 30-year mortgage at 3%, a car loan at a fixed rate, student debt that isn't indexed, and the currency you're paying it back with is steadily losing value, you are actually benefiting. The dollars you pay back in year 5 are worth less than the dollars you borrowed in year 1. Your lender is getting paid in increasingly worthless currency. You are effectively transferring the cost of inflation onto them. This is the hidden logic behind the housing boom of the last decade. People didn't get smarter about real estate. They got lucky with leverage. They borrowed cheap money to buy an asset that rose with inflation and paid it back with dollars that shrank. This doesn't mean loading up credit cards at 24% interest. That's still financial suicide. But it does mean reconsidering the relationship between fixed-rate debt and inflating currency. A fixed mortgage at a low rate is not a burden. It's a hedge. A fixed car loan at a reasonable rate is not a mistake. It's a shield. The person who paid cash for everything in 2019, proud of being debt-free, watched their savings lose purchasing power, while the person with the 30-year mortgage watched their monthly payments stay the same while their rent equivalent skyrocketed. One played the old game. One accidentally stumbled into the new one. Now we arrive at the second, more uncomfortable lever: ownership. Not ownership in the abstract sense of stocks and bonds, but ownership of things that the system cannot function without. Things that rise with inflation because they are inputs to everything else. This is where the gap between popular financial advice and strategic reality becomes a canyon. The average personal finance guru will tell you to invest in a diversified portfolio of index funds. And over a 40-year horizon, that's probably fine. But over the next 5 years, during an inflationary period, the game changes. Index funds contain companies that are themselves struggling with higher input costs, supply chain disruptions, and wage pressure. The stock market, in real terms, can stagnate or fall while prices rise. You can lose purchasing power even as your 401k balance holds steady. The assets that actually perform during inflation are different. They are real assets: commodities, agricultural land, energy infrastructure, industrial metals. These are not things the average person can easily buy, but they are things the average person can access through vehicles that have democratized over the last decade. There are ETFs for copper, for lithium, for uranium, for timber. There are platforms that allow small investors to buy shares of farmland. There are REITs focused on industrial real estate, not shopping malls. The logic is simple. Inflation is a monetary phenomenon, but its effects are felt in the physical world. When central banks print money, the value of currency falls relative to real things. The people who own the real things, the land, the resources, the productive assets, see their wealth rise in nominal terms. The people who only own currency, or claims on currency like bonds and savings accounts, see their wealth erode. This is not a political statement. It's an accounting identity. If you want to survive inflation, you have to own something the system needs to keep running. This is the lever that makes people uncomfortable because it touches identity. Where you live is not just a location. It's a financial decision with massive consequences. And in an inflationary world, the gap between high-cost and low-cost geographies becomes a survival chasm. Consider this. The cost of living in the top 20 metropolitan areas in the United States has risen more than twice as fast as the national average over the last decade. San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, Boston, these cities have become inflation multipliers. The rent, the taxes, the services, the groceries, everything costs more. And the premium for being there in terms of career opportunity has shrunk. Remote work, accelerated by the pandemic, broke the geographic monopoly on professional jobs. You can now work for a New York company while living in Pennsylvania. You can code for a Silicon Valley startup from Ohio. This is geographic arbitrage, earning high-wage income while living in a low-cost environment. The gap between the two is pure profit. It's a raise that doesn't come from your employer, it comes from your address. And the tax treatment favors it. No one taxes you on the difference between what you would have paid in rent in Manhattan and what you actually pay in Columbus. But there's a deeper layer here, one that involves global rather than domestic movement. The United States is still, despite its inflation, a relatively stable currency zone compared to much of the world. For someone with American dollars, living abroad temporarily, in Mexico, in Portugal, in Thailand, can stretch purchasing power dramatically. The dollar goes further. The cost of living is lower, and if you can work remotely, you are effectively arbitraging not just geography, but currency. You're spending weak pesos while earning strong dollars. This is not for everyone. It requires flexibility, language skills, a tolerance for bureaucracy. But for those who can do it, it's a hedge against domestic inflation that no government policy can touch. The final lever is the one you carry with you, your skills. But not skills in the generic sense of being good at your job. Skills that are dynamically priced. Skills that become more valuable when the system is under stress. Think about what inflation does to the economy. It creates winners and losers. The winners are often in sectors that deal with scarcity, with repair, with maintenance, with essentials. During the 1970s inflation, the people who did best were not corporate middle managers. They were tradespeople, electricians, plumbers, mechanics, people who could fix things, people who could maintain things, people whose labor was tied to physical reality, not corporate budgets. Today, the same dynamic is emerging. As goods become more expensive, repair becomes more attractive. As new cars cost $50,000, keeping the old one running makes sense. As supply chains remain fragile, local production and local services gain value. The person who can weld, who can code hardware, who can install solar panels, who can retrofit homes for energy efficiency, these skills are becoming more valuable, not less. This doesn't mean everyone should quit their job and become an electrician. But it does mean that adding a complementary skill, something tangible, something that solves a physical problem, is an inflation hedge. It diversifies your income stream away from the corporate salary that's being silently devalued. It gives you options. And in an inflationary world, options are the only real wealth. None of this is new. The 1970s, the last great American inflation, taught these lessons the hard way. From 1973 to 1981, the purchasing power of the dollar fell by nearly half. People who relied solely on wages fell behind. People who owned real assets, real estate, commodities, land, kept pace or got ahead. People who had fixed-rate debt saw their obligations shrink in real terms. People who had cash savings watched them evaporate. The difference today is that the tools are more accessible. In the 1970s, buying commodities meant futures contracts and brokerage accounts. Today, it means an app on your phone. In the 1970s, geographic arbitrage meant moving to a different city and hoping the job market followed. Today, it means logging onto Zoom from a different continent. The barriers are lower, but the awareness is also lower. Most people are still playing the old game, waiting for the raise that never comes, saving cash that loses value, paying off fixed-rate debt that could be their friend instead of their enemy. Zoom out for a moment, and the picture becomes clearer. This inflation is not a random event. It is the consequence of structural shifts that have been building for decades. The globalization that kept prices low by exporting production to cheap labor markets has peaked and is now reversing. The energy transition from fossil fuels to renewables is creating massive demand for metals and minerals that are not yet being mined at scale. The demographic decline in the developed world is shrinking the workforce and pushing up wages for essential labor. The geopolitical fragmentation, the division of the world into competing blocs, is breaking the efficient supply chains that delivered cheap goods. These are not temporary disruptions. They are permanent reconfigurations. The era of cheap everything, cheap goods, cheap energy, cheap money is over. The next era will be characterized by scarcity, by volatility, by the constant erosion of purchasing power. Surviving it requires understanding that the old rules are dead. Working harder won't save you. Asking for a raise won't save you. Waiting for the government to fix it won't save you. The only thing that will save you is adapting to the new incentives. So what does that adaptation look like in practice? It looks like a mindset shift. It means treating your salary as only one pillar of your financial structure, not the whole building. It means looking at your debt and asking, is this working for me or against me? Fixed rate, long-term debt at low rates is an asset in an inflationary world. Variable rate, consumer debt at high rates is a trap. It means looking at your assets and asking, do I own anything that rises when prices rise? If all your wealth is in cash and bonds and a 401k that's mostly stocks, you're exposed. Real assets, things you can touch, things the world needs, are the only true hedge. It means looking at your location and asking, am I paying a premium for geography that I don't need to pay? If your job can be done anywhere, your location is a choice, not a necessity. Choose wisely. It means looking at your skills and asking, do I have a way to earn that is not dependent on a corporate payroll? A side skill, a trade, a service that people need regardless of the economic weather. Something that insulates you from the decisions of a distant HR department. There is a final irony here, one that the personal finance industry will never tell you. The strategies that work during inflation, owning real assets, using fixed-rate debt strategically, diversifying income streams, arbitraging geography. These are not new, they are ancient. They are the strategies that farmers and merchants and traders have used for centuries. The only thing that changed in the post-war era was the illusion that they were no longer necessary. The illusion that a steady job and a savings account and a diversified portfolio were enough. That illusion is now dissolving. The people who will survive this era, who will maintain or even increase their purchasing power without a raise, are not the ones with the highest salaries. They are the ones who understand that money is just a claim on reality. And when the value of that claim is being eroded, you have to own reality itself. If this reframing changed how you see your financial situation, hit like and subscribe. We dig into the hidden systems that shape your life, the incentives, the power dynamics, the strategies that actually work, without the cliches and without the moralizing. In the comments, tell me, what's the one thing you own that rises when prices rise?